Well, for more on fashion going green, we are joined by Elizabeth L.Cline, live from New York. She is a journalist and author of Overdressed, the shockingly high cost of cheap fashion. This is so interesting. I can't wait to hear all about this, Elizabeth. Tell us, nowadays in the fashion world, you hear the words eco-friendly, organic, and sustainable a lot. They're really thrown around, which is a good thing. But how do you know which companies are really putting these terms to good use?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, and happy Fashion Week. And I think that's a great question. I think for me and for a lot of people, it's all about looking at which companies approach sustainability systemically. They have to look at the whole picture. So you really need to know which brands are looking at the way they use water, and which brands are looking at the materials that go into their clothing, and which ones are paying attention to the waste they produce and are really just looking at the big picture. Because yeah, you don't just want to put out a organic cotton fashion line and call yourself green. You really want to be tackling the whole problem.
Tell us about some of the most successful environmental campaigns by some of these major brands in the fashion world.
You know what's interesting is that right now, two fast fashion giants, Zara and H&M, are often topping sustainability rankings. H&M has a conscious collection of organic and recycled clothing, and Zara has launched its own sustainable line. And then H&M also has an in-store recycling program. And I also think that Levi's is doing a lot of really interesting work with using water-saving technology. And a lot of the outdoor brands like Nike and Adidas are also spearheading innovative new fibers. So maybe in the future we won't be wearing polyester and cotton. And according to these brands, we might be wearing a 3D printed biodegradable synthetic. So I think the future is really interesting, and it is a lot of the major brands that are pushing innovation in this space.
Now, I thought it was interesting. I heard this summer that DuPont and Nike were teaming up, making this new tennis shoe out of, I guess it was algae oils, I believe. So it's interesting what people are doing, and you don't think about it, but what's the downside if you're a fashion designer of having to be eco-friendly?
The downside, I mean, I think people always kind of go back to it being expensive, but, you know, especially when it comes to consumer behavior, it's so affordable to just try and buy things that you love and buy things that you want to wear for longer. And also, I think that for brands, as long as they view it as an opportunity to engage consumers, especially young consumers, they're going to win, because you know, the next generation of consumers that are coming along really expect products to be sustainable, but they also expect them to be beautiful and affordable. So whatever brands can kind of get that formula of affordability, fashionability, and access is really gonna win.
You know, you see in a lot of major cities in the United States, these consignment stores popping up, which plays into all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting about fashion resale, or secondhand, if you want to call it, is a lot of it's moving online. So people can go online to sites like The RealReal or Tradesy, or even rental websites, and get clothing that way. And it's such an easy and affordable way to make your wardrobe more sustainable. It couldn't be more pain-free for consumers. And I think it's a lot of fun, too.
Elizabeth, how far away are we from some sort of regulation in the fashion industry on a much larger scale?
Well, if you're talking about sustainability,
yes.
Whenever I look at the rankings, most brands, even if they're at the top of the pack, I would say they're still at, you know, maybe a C. So we need to get them up to a B and then an A. So they have a long way to go, but there's, you know, every reason to feel optimistic about where the industry is headed.
All righty. Well, Elizabeth L.Cline, author of Overdressed, the shockingly high cost of cheap fashion. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.